What is what is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. We're going to be talking a little NFL Showdown tonight. Go Dodgers for the Dodgers side of it. I did post my baseball picks and my NFL early builds on our site under my ownerships and under my plays of the day. You can find it there. I also have my bets of the day up, the bets that I like. So check that out on truedfs.com. Sheets, we've got just a one, obviously a showdown slate, but it's kind of a fun one. I think there's a lot of ways we can go here, and I think there's a lot of ways you can possibly get different. Especially
but before we go on, what's your you have your bets of the day? What's your favorite?
I didn't really love anything. Like I'm not crazy obsessed with anything today. I do like the Dodgers in that game. I think it's a pick'em game, and I like I didn't have any prop bets that really stood out to me, and I like I like the Tampa Bay to cover tonight, personally. But that's
what I need something for the next. I may as well talk about this. We have a little time. So I have like 3 days. I need like a lock in something, and you know me, I never like anything. So,
why? I don't understand. What's the reason?
Well, because my son, he's in Virginia, so he gets all these marketing things, and so they had access to $1,000 free bet. Where what you could do is you put in $1,000. It's got to be a full $1,000, and if you lose, then you get $1,000 in credit. Where you can, but you also have to use that for like 1,000 free bets. So basically, you have 2 shots to win, like, you know what I mean, like,
right.
And he lost the one that he had an opinion on. He had I think he tried to beat your Rams. He get Seattle over the Rams. So he's like, all right, Dad, whatever you want to do for that. So I have to come up with $1,000 bet within the next, and there's like a time limit within the next 3 days. And I'm just so like. I just think there's just no edge in anything, sports betting wise, that every time I look at something, no opinion. So I'm just waiting for someone to tell me that something's a lock in like any sport, anything, and I'll try it. But nobody seems to like anything. So that's why I asked. If there's anything you had incredible opinion on, just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do. I think that my best bets of the year would have been, it's been an up and down baseball season to say the least for me. My best bets of the year would have certainly been the prop bets. For some reason, the baseball pitching strikeout prop bets are just, I just was on fire this season. Everything else I kind of missed on, but not everything else, but a lot of it anyway. All right.
Am I sharing my screen? Yeah, I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, let's get into it. I did say, like, to start, I do think Tampa Bay, I do like Tampa Bay to cover. It always makes me nervous to a team on the road on a Thursday night to say they're going to cover 6.5, especially because this is probably the highest total for a Thursday game I can remember in a while. I mean, I don't know about you, but for a Thursday game, 52.5 total is kind of absurd.
I think some Ravens games have been up there. No,
I don't know on a Monday.
Maybe not. Yeah,
not on a Thursday.
Right.
I mean, but Tampa Bay's offense is just absolutely on fire. They're clicking. All right, so let's talk about some plays here so I guess the real question is, like, do we want to captain on FanDuel? I found I captained Brady, and I don't mind captaining Ertz. On DraftKings, I think there's a lot of other ways to go that I'm going to sort of take advantage of some cheaper prices and probably do something like that. What are your thoughts on it? And who are you sort of looking at? I know you don't like to look at it from the captain standpoint, but if you're going to mix guys in for this kind of a game, I think it's kind of important that we try to figure that out.
Oh, you got to do me a favor. Can you pause this for a second?
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
All right. We were just talking about captain. I know you, like you said, you don't want to look at it in general. I think for this football game, you kind of have to. I think that's really what your main decision point is going to be on DraftKings. And it's, can you get enough value from one of these other guys to where, you're giving up? Because you do have 2 quarterbacks that I have a hard time seeing them not perform. Probably easier to see Brady not than Ertz, to be honest with you. At the same time, Brady is I probably slightly prefer him as captain. But I think on DraftKings, I'm going to skip both these guys as captain and skip Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as well. I think the highest I'd spend on a captain on DraftKings would probably be Devontae Smith and Antonio Brown. It gets you just enough extra savings where I can build the lineups that I want. There's some cheap guys too to consider. Have you thought about the captain and what you're sort of looking at here?
So this is kind of what I do. So, I run my stuff, whatever, then I run it through the optimizers and see what kind of lineups it gives me. And that's where I start with, right? And if it gives me like 100% captain, so let's say Lamar, for example, or 100% captain, say Brady, or like 50% Brady, 50% Ertz, I just know that's the type of slate that I'm looking at, right? And if it gives me like other guys, then I know that's the type of slate I'm looking at as well. So when I first ran this, it actually didn't give me like 100%. Usually it tends to give you 100% of the quarterback. You know, that's the way it usually works. They usually project to have the most points, right?
Right.
And unless you know, like if Devontae Adams or whatever it is. So here I'm kind of with you in that it's not giving me like a full, you know, commitment to Brady or to her. So I'm inclined to be with you in that I can spread out a little bit. Now my first runs didn't get me to Dante Smith, but some other guys, and there are some cheapos here that can make the rest of the lineups work. Like I think let's talk about one, for example. Let's talk about just
okay.
I was gonna say let's talk about Kenneth Gainer.
Yeah, he was the other one. Perfect.
Oh, so like for example, like let's just say that you put, and this is always what I look at, like when you say, well, do you need to put him in the captain? You know, what does that really do for you? But if it's gonna get you access to like Brady and Ertz and you know and AB and Fournette, you know, whatever, and like another guy, like maybe it's worth it to give up those points. Because look, he's not going to outscore. I mean, probably not going to outscore any of the other. I mean, he's not going to outscore Fournette. He's not going to outscore probably not going to outscore Sanders. But if putting him in the captain will access you to all those guys, that's great. But the problem with somebody like AB is that Brady just, I mean, as opposed to this kind of contradicts what I'm about to say, because last week, like AB was targeted throughout, you know, and just went freaking crazy. But Brady does usually like to kind of spread it around a little bit, right? So I guess the first thing is, again, I do like some AB in the captain. I do like some Godwin in the captain. I do like some Gainwell in the captain. I do want to spread it around a little bit. What other captains did you come up with?
Fournette. I think that the upside for him is enough here, and I think they could be running the ball. And Philadelphia in general is going to be a little bit better against the pass than they are against the run. I don't believe in them entirely anyway. I like the Gainwell idea. I mean, I think on this season, I think he literally has this whole season played out. I think he has one less fantasy point than Miles Sanders. And
really?
he just put up 20 the game before last against KC, but this is a similar type of environment. And I don't like playing running backs against them, but pass catching running backs when the team is down, Gainwell fits the narrative for me. And I believe, I know we're disagree on this. I 100% think you play the game narrative that you believe makes the most sense. So I'm very high on that part of it. There's some other cheap guys that should be considered. I think Zach Ertz is a completely viable captain. First of all, he's been actually getting targets and having some solid games even with Goddard. And with Goddard out now, I think Ertz is the more logical, what people will probably do more than the Gainwell thing. But I like the way that both those guys fit the game script. And even if I played a Gainwell at captain, I still might play Ertz with Hurst on the other side, and then play Brady, you know, Fournette, whether it be Brown or Mike Evans. I have a slight lean on Evans over Godwin today, personally. But I think it's really close. And I do have Antonio Brown as my favorite. I'm going to just keep betting on this take that I have, that they had the offseason. And in my opinion, I think he really has become he's not going to necessarily be their most consistent receiver, but his upside versus his price is going to be better than the other guys, in my opinion, most weeks, as long as he's significantly cheaper than they are, which he is. I mean, not significantly, but significantly enough. I think that what we want to do, this game reminds me of some other things that we want, you know, like backup running backs. Ronald Jones, 1.8K, absolutely can go that route as well. I don't mind even if you want to put him in the same lineup as Fournette, but I think that in general, I will probably be having Jones and Gainwell in the same lineups. And I think it works out well, whether, you know, probably the utility, obviously, because I don't think I need to go all the way there. And then you have Ertz, who I like a lot. The only Eagles, I think Ertz, Devontae Smith, and I mean, I guess it's four of them. Ertz, Devontae Smith, Gainwell, and Ertz are all in play for captain for me, for all very different reasons. I do think that we have seen these guys love to match up one-on-one on the outside in Tampa Bay, and they're just not good at it. So I'm very, very okay with taking the shot on Devontae Smith. I'm a little worried that I don't have more Miles Sanders. I think could be a game sometime. This is a terrible matchup for him, and he's really, really not. He hasn't broken out at all this season, which I keep waiting for it to happen. This is probably not the matchup where it's going to happen without him breaking one big play or something like that. So I am sort of siding away from the Miles Sanders and towards Ertz, Gainwell, Smith, and Hurts as my main plays from Philly. And then for my favorite plays on the other side would be AB, Fournette, Brady, and then Godwin / Evans, but I would give Evans a little bit of a nod. On FanDuel, for example, I really think that Cameron Brate is the guy on FanDuel, and I think you could even consider him on DraftKings. I had a great history with him on these Thursday night showdowns, but at the same time, you have OJ Howard at 1.4K also. So these are the guys who I'm going to be mixing throughout my lineups. I don't think there's anything earth-shattering here, but I'm going to try to play multiples of them together. Like, I think if people play a Gainwell, they're not going to play a Ronald Jones in that lineup. So I'm trying to make that happen. You know what I mean? I think if people play, a Ronald Jones, they're probably going to play an Ertz on the other side. Maybe, I don't know. I actually don't know exactly if they'll build like that, but I really like those guys, and I'm trying to keep a tighter pool. And in my big buy-ins, I don't know where I'm going to end up on captain, but currently I have Fournette and Brown as my captains. I probably will get a Gainwell or an Ertz in one of those, because it does allow you to do a few other different things. The problem is I don't know if we need to do those different things, like to get up to Cameron Brate instead of OJ Howard. While I prefer the play of Brate, I don't think there's any reason why OJ Howard wouldn't have a bigger game here. So I'm totally fine with it. Brady spreads the ball around. I do think Brady is the kind of guy he could look for in the end zone, but I mostly I find that there's enough value that has shots of getting there that maybe we shouldn't be using the value at captain, even though you are getting some really good plays the other way. I'm sort of going back and forth on that myself.
So let me interject here with, I guess I consider this the funny business alert. Like I want to talk about guys that are on the cheap side, and some of them are going to be guys you mentioned before, and they're going to be used. And you covered most of them. There are 2 or 3 guys that you haven't mentioned of what I consider cheaper plays. So the guy who's going to project well, who's going to, probably he'll easily get double-digit ownership. I don't know where is the guy we've talked about, and that's Gainwell. Like, he's 24. Another guy that you mentioned that is under 5K, whatever, that is going to get owned as well as Ertz, but I definitely like that play a lot. And then you talked about him for a bit, and I do think OJ Howard, like you said, is really super duper in play at 1,400. Couple of guys that you didn't get to, and you probably were eventually, is our 2 Philly guys. One little less, or whatever, is Kez Watkins. He's 4,600. That's nothing major, but a guy who always kind of shows out in these showdown games is Greg Ward. He never really projects for much, but they always seem to get him in there. And I'll tell you this, that he's pretty much always in there in garbage time. Like, I've seen this before. And look, I struggle to get these guys out. I want to use the funny business plays. And even that, 2 weeks ago when Philadelphia played one of the showdown slates, I'm like, listen, I can't quite get to Greg Ward. And I think Greg Ward might have either gotten a touchdown or gotten something in that game also. So I think if you want to stab in the dark, I think at 800, I think he's in play. And the other guy, the other 2 guys I want to mention, one guy, I don't know if you mentioned Giovanni Bernard from Tampa.
I did not.
But he's going to be, whatever, 5K. It's not. But do you have any interest in, only because he's showing up as a projection here, in Tyler Johnson from Tampa at 1K?
My take is that Tyler Johnson's a better play than Greg Ward is.
Okay.
I just think Tyler Johnson will be on the field for more snaps, and we don't even need to worry about that. It's just going to happen. He gets targets every game. He's Greg Ward. They will occasionally find in the end zone, and they saw it last year too. He's there. It's just I personally think I would go Tyler Johnson over Ward, but it's not like it's not close between the 2 of them. I don't know. I feel like Philly has more of those. They've got Archigo Whiteside and Greg Ward is a 4th receiver versus Tyler Johnson as a 4th receiver. Give me the quarterback who spreads the ball out more, which is Brady. And Tyler Johnson always gets targets. I think he's been targeted every game so far this year, whereas Greg Ward's 2 games didn't. I don't even know if he saw the field for more than a play or 2. And you know, I mean, look at it. This Tyler Johnson last week had 3 catches for 42 yards. Like,
Oh, did he? Okay.
you would love that. You know, a couple games before that, he had 3 catches for 63 yards. So I think that there is some upside for Tyler Johnson as the other one. The issue I have with it is, are you maybe killing some of your upside instead of just playing a guy like Gainwell, who's not that much more expensive? So maybe you play him in addition to. But if you're going to play those guys, or are you better off maybe playing OJ Howard, which I think is completely viable at 1.4K, or even Jack Stoll? We don't know what they're going to do without Goddard, where they've had Goddard and Ertz, paired as tight ends for a while. There's a chance Jack Stoll could get in there and maybe sneak in a touchdown at 200. So that's the other guy I'm kind of considering a tiny bit, even though I think it's a little bit of a reach. I do think, I mean, they do run double tight end sets in Philly. So if they're going to run double tight end sets, you'd think that the other tight end would have the chance of at least potentially catching one ball, But I do like Tyler Johnson, and I think that was a good, you're pointing out. I like Kez Watkins. I'm not finding myself getting to him much, but I like him. I think there's some upside in it for him in general. And this is the kind of defense where it wouldn't surprise me he broke a play. Another guy we didn't talk about was Jaylen Reagar. I don't think I could play Bernard and like, I don't understand why the projections have Bernard even where he is personally. I really don't. It's all I got. I don't understand it. At least Ronald Jones is getting a consistent 5 to 6 touches a game. Bernard, we have seen him get some a lot of touches in some games. That one game against the Rams was very fluky. So if you're gonna play Bernard, play the angle that the Eagles are dominating the game in some form, and that's that Tampa's forced to throw it coming back or something, because that's the only way I really see him getting into heavy use. At the same time, you don't really need heavy use, and he did catch a touchdown against Miami, which seems like everybody on Tampa Bay seemed to have. I could get behind it. I guess it's just hard at his price. It's not like he's cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
That's what I don't understand. And also, I'm showing that right now it's early in the day, but it's showing like he's going to have some ownership. So I would just rather play Ronald Jones at 1/3 the price with probably a higher floor, maybe a lower ceiling. I don't know. It's actually could go either way. It depends on if anything gets banged up for Fournette or whatever, or if they blow him out early and they just want to run some Ronald Jones later. But I'm pretty much sticking to my pool of the main guys that I said. I do think you can get, people are going to say, oh, well, there's nothing shocking about some of these things or whatever. If you include a Tyler Johnson, that's where you can get a little bit off the board. I think that on the other side, I do think that OJ Howard will get a decent amount of ownership. I think Cameron Brate even will on DraftKings. I think he's a better play on FanDuel because I don't know. Personally, I think you could use the price actually over there a little bit better. But maybe the Jack Stoll thing is a better, like, think about it. This, if this game ends up, he could end up with 4 or 5 targets and a catch for a touchdown. It's completely possible because of the double tight end sets that Philly will run, as well as Tampa having a decent pass rush.
Wait, so who are you talking about?
Jack Stoll, the other tight end for Philly. That's the weird. That's the really.
I didn't even get a projection on him.
I don't even know for sure that he's going to. I'm just saying right now. As of right now, I've got him as the only other tight end they've got.
And there it is. It says Stoll was expected to serve as the Eagles' number 2 tight end for Thursday's game against the Bucs.
Yeah. So I think just because he's a tight end in Philly at 200, that's a shot I would probably take. If I needed that extra whatever 100, I don't think he's a better play than the other guys in the 1K range. But I think that he very well could be. Maybe he is the better play. You're reaching, you're playing, somebody who hasn't had a catch on the season. But at the same time, is it really that much of a reach for a team that between both tight ends gets about 15 targets a week, and they're not all going to go to Ertz this time? Everybody's going to act like they will, but maybe they won't. Why would they? They don't all the time. So, and a lot of it's, when what's his name gets out there and scrambles, Ertz. You find one of these 2 guys occasionally, and it's I don't know. I'm just sort of trying to get creative. He's my get weird kind of creative play. If you need that extra, I don't know, 1,200 between him, the difference between him and OJ Howard. And one thing we didn't talk about today, I think that especially suck up is fine. I don't find myself wanting to use the kickers or the defenses this week, and usually I have a little more interest in it. I like the skill players. I think somebody weird is going to score a touchdown because that happens pretty much every time Tampa Bay plays. And it happens quite often when Philly plays, as you mentioned about Greg Ward scoring 2 touchdowns this season. So if Greg Ward is completely unowned, maybe maybe you're right. Maybe Tyler Johnson, Stoll, one of those three guys in your long shot tournaments are what could get you different enough to maybe at least have a chance.
Yeah, I don't like the as far as the kickers go, I'd much prefer Suck Up to Elliott.
Yep.
Just more points, and Philly won't have the luxury of kicking field goals. Again, this is the idea, right? If they're a 7-point underdog, it's less likely that they're going to have the luxury of kicking field goals, later in the game. So,
yeah.
So, and as far as defenses go, I still maintain what I said, that there'll be a game where Brady throws a pick six or something like that. But you know what I mean? It's not that the Eagles are a particularly good play, you know what I mean? But for showdown, if you play 150 lineups, I would throw a couple in, and I would certainly, depending on how many lineups you play, I would just throw in a couple of bucks. But the amount of lineups I'm playing, I'm not prioritizing either defense. I don't think I'm going to get any of it in 20 lineups, and I don't think I'm going to get any even Suck Up. I think I'm going to try. I think I agree with you. I think I'm just going to make my lineups work out of position players in some form, and just hope I get lucky with touchdowns or something like that.
That's exactly, I think that's the right thing. And as the day goes on, keep an eye on the ownership. I do think the more I look back at it, the mid-range sort of weird tier, I think is going to be forgotten about a little bit because of all the studs up there. So Jaylen Reagar and Kez Watkins are going to be the guys who maybe can get it done at that weird mid-tier price, right? I think they're really interesting. But as I'm looking right now, my captains, I don't have either of them anywhere near 10%. It's a little different because if I'm playing two, I play 10 in the $150, $15, but I play 2 in the 222. So I don't need, I don't need to get quite as crazy off the board in those 222s. I still will do it sometimes, but you still have to be off the board. Don't get me wrong. But like, if you're talking about a guy at 0.5% ownership versus 3% ownership, it's not going to make that much of a difference to me. But whereas if I'm in the $15 million, whatever, that's a huge ownership gap difference. You know what I mean?
Right now, like my ownerships right now, and this is not even captain, but in overall, I have 3 guys like locked in right now. I have Brady, Ertz, and Gainwell actually locked in. Not a captain necessarily, but just in my lineups. These are kind of cool. Like I have a couple with Ertz as captain. That could be a fun one if that works. Yeah. I mean, the fact is Goddard is out, and Ertz is the tight end.
Right.
And who's to say he doesn't get 2 touchdowns?
100% agree with you, but I also think he's not going to be off the board. Like he'll be similarly owned. In my opinion, he'll be very similarly owned to Brown, Smith, those guys. I think you'll see him in his ownership. I think Gainwell will be lower owned than he is, but I think Gainwell will probably be let's say that Gainwell's probably going to end up 2 to 3%, maybe a little bit higher.
The captain, you mean?
Yeah. And overall, I think he'll be 20-something% or higher.
It's got to be, right? Yeah.
I would think so. I mean, he did have that monster week, and people watched that game against the Chiefs because it was a big DFS game, and he also had the big game week 1 against Atlanta. So mostly just being the big game, meaning just that he got in the end zone. I believe he got in. Did he get in twice? No, he just got in once. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much what we're doing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go live because Rhodey's gets a little flustered with this. I'm going to try and record with him before or later today for the NFL for the weekend's slate.
Well, let me ask you this: would you want to go live? In other words,
I would do it.
Yeah, if I'm but let me look at my schedule. It's a kind of a light schedule for me today. So if I can make it,
okay,
then we'll do it. So what time would you do? Like 7:50? I mean, like 7:50 or something, or?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah, if it works for you, great.
Okay.
And at the same time, guys, again, check out all the baseball showdown stuff on True DFS. And Sheets, anything else before we get out of here?
No, sounds good.
All right. Well, good luck tonight, everybody, in both NFL and MLB DFS. And most importantly, go Dodgers. Good luck, all.